All right, let's get into our teaching tonight. And I'm looking forward to sharing with you guys top 10 big summertime mistakes. And let's jump right into it. And then after this, we're going to take some questions. So get your questions ready too. Right now, it's a big issue if you're failing to catch your queen issues that are going on. We're running out of time, no matter where you live, South, Midwest, North. We're going to run out of time shortly to do something about queen. Right now, it's been extremely hot. I'm going to be talking about that in just a second, but it's extremely hot. 108 degrees Fahrenheit heat index today here, very terrible. And so a lot of times there can be some weird abnormal brood behavior, brood development, brood laying of the queen. And you might start thinking, I have a bad queen, but it also could be the heat, and it could also be that the dearth is starting someplace. They're not feeding her as well. She's not laying as well. It's difficult for beekeepers sometimes to know, do I have a queen, or am I confusing this with climate, a dearth, or just the heat and something like that? This is a real tough thing for beekeepers. It's difficult to know, and the way that I usually do it is I'll look at every frame until I find a good frame of solid brood. Then I think, okay, she's good laying. But if I'm seeing nothing but spotty brood on all my frames, I know that I have about maybe another month to replace her here in Illinois. I don't like replacing her too late. And so in the month of July and August is about the last times I want to get a good queen in there. If your queen is old and this is her second year, next year will be her third, you're taking a chance. It can still be doable, but you might consider replacing her. Bees get through the winter better with a fresh queen, and they don't swarm as much in the spring with a new queen either. So keep all those things in mind. All right. Another thing is dealing with small hive beetle. Beetles will get worse as the humidity picks up like it's doing now. Wow, hot, humid weather in Illinois here. We have had so much rain, so much hot, humid weather. And fortunately for me, beetles aren't that bad this year at all. But in this picture, those little black dots, not the bees, but the little black things around the bees, the bigger black dots, they are the small hive beetle, and they can really ruin your honey supers and sometimes even destroy an entire hive because the larvae in the wandering stage just eats everything in sight and slimes it when they defecate and ruins it. So you need to learn to really trap. You can use a vegetable oil trap between frames, swisher pads in the corners of the hive. There's a lot of ways. If you do your research or watch some of my videos, I've made 2 or 3 videos in the last year or two about trapping small hive beetle and controlling them, but please keep those under control. They get worse this time of the year, okay? So don't let that get bad. And of course, mites, this is big. A lot of people wonder why their bees died in the wintertime, and we can't help but point the fingers at mites. Now, if you're not doing anything for mites right now because it's really hot outside, some of you may use a salic acid or a Formic Pro. We're way too hot to use Formic Pro, about 85, 89 Fahrenheit, the extreme that you can use it. That's too hot. And so what do you do? How do you treat for mite in hot weather? There are a few other things you can use. You can use a salic acid vaporizer in hot weather. It changes things a little bit, but it's still something you can get by with if you do it early in the morning before it gets really hot. But you need not to give up treating your mites. If you treat your mites, it's going to drastically increase your bees' chance of getting through the winter. I can't stress that enough. Coin toss, really is. If you don't treat for mites, it's a flip of a coin, heads or tails. They're gonna survive or not. If you treat for mites and keep the levels down all year, you're going to really have a much greater chance of getting your bees through the winter. I can't stress that enough. That's a known fact. It's scientific. That's just how it works, because these mites spread viruses that'll take your bees out in the winter. Now, right now, we're dealing with another thing, and another mistake a lot of beekeepers fail to realize is your hive can really overheat. They're really good at keeping cool. I admit they're great. But if they're right out there in the middle of the sun and you put them there to keep out beetles, well, they get really hot. look what I do. I put something big like this over my hives, a big piece of cardboard or 4x4 piece of plywood. Doesn't have to be real thick. Put a brick on it, and that will provide shade. Isn't that genius? Between 10 and 2, anytime you keep sun off of that box, oh my gosh, it's going to be great. Also provide ventilation by maybe propping the top cover a little bit with a popsicle stick or a quarter, you know, kind of give them a little way to pull a little more air through the hive. But shade and ventilation, big time, people. Don't make the mistake of your bees getting so hot that all they have time to do is try to get water in there to cool the hive down. They bring a lot of water in right now. And speaking of water, give them a water source. Don't make them fly, you know, 2 miles to get water. Put something around the property. Here's a bird bath of mine that I just set up recently, and I threw some rocks in there. Bees are not good swimmers. They cannot swim. So put some sticks and rocks in a bird bath in the shade, and see if you can't get them to enjoy that water. Running water really works better, but then you got to buy something that makes water run, and that's kind of another thing to do. But maybe you've got something like that. Okay, so keep water in the bee yard. Help the bees out a little bit. Now, another big mistake that beekeepers wrestle with sometimes is, when do you add supers? Is it too late to add supers now? And of course, I realize a lot of you live all over the planet. Thanks for watching from all over, by the way. But look, you can only expect for your supers to get nectar if there's still things blooming in your area. Okay, so in other words, you really need to make sure that you still have clover, there's still some good nectar sources in your area. And if there is, well, then put supers on there and keep your fingers crossed. I will say this, in the picture you noticed that the honey super frames here are not drawn out. In Illinois, it's really tough right now to get frames drawn out. You can do it. I've made videos of me doing it in August during a dearth, if you coat them with wax first, but it's pretty tough. So I like to get all my frames drawn out in May and June. And then the last bit of honey coming in for me is maybe the first week or 2 of August, and then we go into a dearth. So we're kind of running out. So those of you that also ask me questions all the time is, well, if they're not completely, you know, filled up with nectar or honey, can I leave them on the hive and take my bees through the winter? I don't recommend that, because your bees might move up during the winter into that super box and it won't be enough food to sustain them. So try to keep, I always like to keep 1 super on there for them if I can, or certainly feed them my winter bee kind boards that go on sale in just a few days. Yeah. All right. Tip number 7, watch out for robbing. I've been looking at a new robbing screen. The one I'm showing here, there's been some modifications made for a new one just like that. And Cliff that makes these, he sent me one today to look at and tell him where I think some improvements can be made. So I think it's, I like it. It works well. And with improvements, it's going to look better. Don't wait until your hive starts getting robbed. It can happen any minute now. It can happen any minute for me. You hit a dearth, bees are going to start robbing, getting ready for winter by attacking smaller colonies. Please get your robber screens. Have them ready. Put them on there. Learn how to use them. It's so imperative. The way they work is, see the screen at the bottom? That's going to attract robbers by the smell of the colony. But a little door at the top, you can barely see it on the left side there. You open that little door, put it on at night, and then, yeah, you can let the bees start. Your bees will go in and out, and the robbers won't figure that out at all. That's a big thing. This is going to be a summer mistake that when it hits, you can see colonies get robbed out. Number 8, a lot of times we don't inspect deep enough, and I mean going down to the second deep. That's imperative now because it's hot outside and we want to get the inspection over quickly. But I still think once a month, I think we need to look for the queen and her eggs every 2 weeks. But once one of those inspections, we need to go down deep and just make sure that there's good stuff down there and nothing bad, no American foul brood, European foul brood. Make sure that everything in the bottom deep looks good too. So we still need to do a thorough inspection once a month, maybe even do a mite test, but it's going to be tough because there could be robbing if there's a dearth and you're sweating to death. I know what it feels like out there, and sometimes we bypass. Well, just wait a few days. Like for me, it's going to be better tomorrow than it was today. I didn't inspect anything today. Okay. So you can just put that aside. And then number 9, failing to requeen. Let's talk about requeening your hive. Is your queen going to make it? How old is she? Well, there's risk in using an old queen. There can be problems with her laying. She only can store so much sperm in her spermatheca from her initial mating flight. She does not go out and mate again. And so if she runs out of stored sperm, she can't fertilize the eggs, and all she'll be is a drone layer. And those boys don't help the hive out much, okay? So you've got to be thinking, is my queen going to do the winter, or should I replace her now? And I think right now is a good time to make that decision, how old she is. If she's this year's queen, she'll be fine. If she's a 2-year-old queen, there's an 80% chance she'll be fine. A 3-year-old queen, it's risky. I would replace her. I wouldn't take the chance. And finally, how about harvesting mistakes? Big time mistakes are made when we harvest our honey. Number 1 mistake is you accidentally harvest your queen in the super somehow and you kill her. Please don't do that. Be careful when you take your honey supers off. Don't take the queen into the honey house and step on her, okay? It happens. It really does. And so know where your queen is before you start brushing bees off or blowing bees off or using bee robber on your supers. Make sure you don't injure your queen. And then what about taking your supers off too early? They're going to have a hard time drying it out right now because it's so humid outside. And so you could take it off too early, too much moisture in there. Using a refractometer is really going to help you. Buy one on Amazon, 20 to 30 bucks. That way you just put a drop of honey on there, look in the little window, it tells you what the moisture level is. You want it to be 16 to 18% moisture, not much higher than that, okay? And then if it's that high, even though it's not capped over, you could harvest it. Now, what about waiting too late? Some of you asked me, I don't want to do it until September. I don't want to do it till later. There's no problem in that, except what I have found when I was trying to make a living on honey is that sometimes when I harvest it too late, the bees will take it out of the super and move it down into the brood nest area for winter prep. Well, they're supposed to do that, but sometimes if you wait too long, then that's what happens. They use it all. You don't get to harvest any. And also, if you harvest your honey in the wrong place, now this sounds weird, but many beekeepers have told me that they harvested their honey outdoors, like they cut it, uncapped it outdoors, they spun it outdoors, and that is disaster if you do that. Every bee everywhere will be on you in your honey. You have to do it behind closed doors. You have to make sure there's no screens open, windows open. You don't want your bees to get a sniff of honey when you're extracting it, okay? Some of you are going to thank me that I'm telling you this. It will just make you cry. If you leave your garage door open and you have your extractor from yesterday's harvest in there that's not cleaned out yet, your garage will disappear and be filled with bees for a week, okay? Don't harvest, don't work them in the wrong area. Many people have done this. Wow. All right, so that's my 10 tips for you guys, making sure that you don't fall for some of these pretty common, typical mistakes that beekeepers make in the summertime. I've made every one of those mistakes, I think, and I probably will again. So I'm trying to help you not to make those same mistakes for sure. All right, good teaching time. We got a giveaway coming up. Stay tuned for a cool giveaway I got planned for you. And let's go ahead and jump into some teachings. And let's see what I can do to help you guys out answering your questions. Hello, Colleen. Oh, help. I think my bees have been accidentally poisoned by the county spraying for mosquitoes. What can I do to save my bees? This is really tough. I regret to hear that may have happened. Sometimes you see bees on the outside bottom board with their proboscis, their tongue sticking out. That's a telltale sign they've got into some poisoning. And what you can do is just try to hope for the best. Hope it clears up. You can't change the poison out. You can't, only thing you do is prevent it if you knew it was going to happen. But now that it's happened to you, you've just got to sit back and wait to see if your bees can recover from that. That's regretful. I hate to hear that. It does happen. Hey, Stephen, can you put a drawn out deep frame in a medium super to draw bees up into it, obviously with a frame out below it? Oh, okay. I was going to say that's not going to fit. Yeah. You could do that. You could certainly do that. I can't think of any reason why you couldn't, except it's going to be, overlaying. And now below that frame, it's not big enough. And if they're still building comb, there's a gap. There's a violation of bee space in the box below it. And so they're going to build comb on the bottom of it. Does that make sense? So you got to be careful. Always be careful about anytime you violate bee space, 3/8 of an inch approximately, the bees are going to put wax or propolis in places you don't want to mess with it. That's what I see happening there. Hey, Brandon, I had a capped over queen cell I noticed last week. This week I checked and it looked torn apart and almost gone. Can't find my blue queen or a new one, but looked like a few new eggs. Thoughts? Well, if you see eggs, we're hoping that those are from a mated queen, obviously. I don't think you've had enough time to have laying workers doing that. You're just having a difficult time spotting the queen. I think it's the queen doesn't have a dot on her. She's in there laying, and that's probably what's going on. She's laying eggs. I would just wait 10 days, go back in there and look, see if you see maybe even capped over pupae at that point in 10 days. Okay, keep an eye on that. Yeah, sometimes you can't really know until you wait a little bit. Well, hello, Larry. Instead of switching my 10 frame hive to an 8 frame, save the weight, could I use follower boards in my second deep, the brood area, reducing it to 8 or 7 frames, medium supers above the brood box? I see what you're trying to do. You're just wanting to reduce the weight. You can do that. Keep in mind that your follower boards weigh a certain amount as well. You've got that addition to it. But yeah, you can make that space smaller up there. Hello, Sheldon. Thank you for your donations. A lot of you have been leaving donations to the live stream tonight. A reminder, we use those for giveaways and have guests and everything like we did last time and last live stream. Sheldon says, hey, David, I got a hive with 2 small size super seeder cells. The queen is present, great laying pattern, strong colony, unaware of her age. What should I do? Sheldon, I feel like the best thing to do is let nature run its course. I don't think I would do anything. The minute we think our queen is okay because she's laying good and we see 2 super seeder cells, believe it or not, the bees are capable of detecting something's wrong, or maybe the queen's running out of gas. You might want to wait 10 days and see what happens. It's too easy. We'll have to wait 10 days. Well, after 10 days, I can give you more advice. I have 2 hives, 1 Italian, 1 Carniolan. The Carniolan seems way more active and sometimes grumpy than the Italian bees, and they are in the same location. Is this normal? It's really hard to have a hardline Carniolan or a hardline Italian. I know Italian is Apis mellifera, ligustica. I know we use those terms because their ancestry comes from those regions, but now our bees in America have been so homogenized into the soup of genetics that it's really hard to definitely say this is a 100% Carniolan. And in fact, you can have, let's say you did have exact similar genetics of 2 Italian bees. They can be entirely different. I gave a whole presentation here on haploid diploided genetics, and you can have two exact types of queens, and it's just where the genetic alleles line up as far as defensive, not defensive. It's not going to boil down, in my opinion, to a certain type of subspecies of Apis mellifera. It's going to boil down to that particular breeding of that queen. Okay. Yeah. Whew, good questions tonight. I'm still seeing white and gold pollen coming in hives. What, when does that dearth, I think you meant dearth, start in central Illinois? It's starting right now, actually. You know, we're seeing less clover where I live, and the clover we have looks kind of dry. It doesn't look like it did a few weeks ago. My bees are flying less. It's going to be starting any minute. Usually the first part of August is when it starts. Yeah. And a dearth is when nectar isn't out there anymore much. It's hard to find it. Hey, Steve. Notice the brood comb. Notice the brood comb when new is darker than honeycomb where they store nectar. Is this due to more propolis mixed in for bacterial protection? Well, Steve, I'm glad you noticed that. I wrote an article years ago for the American Bee Journal, and I documented how bees will use propolis to build their comb for strength. And yes, they do use it to sterilize the brood area. Propolis is very antimicrobial, and but also every time there's a generation of bees, then when they lay an egg and it turns into a larvae and then it pupates, that pupating bee actually has it forms a cocoon in every cell. Every bee builds a cocoon, and that darkens it. That they track it. They're walking on it, feeding the larvae. So a lot of times it's being tracked and brood gets dark. You don't see that in honey frames. Yeah. Good point. Have you ever tried dry sugar in your winter bee kinds board? Yeah, we have tried that, and we have worked it out kind of like perfectly where the winter moisture gets absorbed. We never could get the dry sugar. The dry sugar was just too hard. It would not absorb and get to be edible by the bees. It was just too rough. And cane sugar, or I don't mean cane sugar, but table sugar is the same way. It takes a lot of moisture for the bees. Bees don't have big molars to crunch on sugar blobs like that. You need to plant it where that, like the winter bee kind board, it actually gets very soluble for the bees to consume it. But hey, I don't know the corner of information. If you want to give her a go, it might be perfect for you in your setting. Hey, Carol, does your feeding system draw ants? I'm in South Carolina, and when I front fed, it draws ants. Also, I have another protein powder. I just found you, and can I use this sugar water? How much should I use? I do like protein powder in the sugar water. I use 1 teaspoon of beekeeping protein substitute powder in a quart of sugar water 1-to-1. And anytime there's sugar anywhere, you have the propensity to draw ants. I would not suggest feeding in the front now. If you're using an entrance feeder, please don't use that now. It's too dangerous to start robbing. Use something like our feeder board on top. Hello, Leah. Thank you for your donation. That's great to see Leah and my granddaughter, Vera. Good to see you guys. Thanks for watching tonight. Love you guys. Yeah, always got to have support from family members. Sometimes they're all the support you need, right? How many pounds do the bees need for winter up here in upstate New York? Probably about like I do, about 70 pounds of honey on board. I don't worry about it because I'm going to feed them my winter bee kinds all winter long, and they're going to eat a bunch of them, and they're going to stay very healthy. So I don't have to sweat that as much. Hey, Mark, would it be appropriate to treat a neighboring hive for mites based on results of the next hive to it? I have one hive. I can never find the queen. Don't like testing until I know where she is. Mark, yeah, I mean, yeah, if that's your only choice, do it, right? On the other hand, if you're a physician and you have 2 patients, one comes in and you do a blood pressure check on one patient, you can't assume the other patient has the same blood pressure. Same way with hives, or they're superorganisms that can be entirely different side by side. I've seen it so many times. I remember one hive had 1 or 2 mites, and the hive next to it had 32 on a 300 bee sample side by side. So you can't trust that at all. Okay. Oh, by the way, you can always shake the bees into a box and off of a brood comb, and you can look there for the queens. A lot of people do that if they can't find her. Okay. Austin, how do you generally replace the queen? Yeah, so let's say you have that 3-year-old queen. It's going to be 4 years next year. You don't want to go through winter with her. You just find her and you have to remove her from the hive. Either put her in another nuke somewhere, watch her. Some people kill her, replace her. Then you have to have another queen that's new this year that you raise. I love teaching people how to raise their own queens. I wrote a book on it with Dr. John Zavishlock. But anyway, you can put a new queen in there in a cage behind candy. I made a video on how to make queen candy. I teach you guys everything I know, free. Oh my gosh. That's how you do it. Put her in there about 12 hours after you take the old queen out. It's so fun. Love it. What do you use to attract? Oh wait, what do you use to attract small hive beetle to the oil traps? I never like to attract small hive beetles. You know, I've seen all the traps back in the day, or in the early days when the beetles were just getting in the U.S. People were fishing around for all kind of ways to deal with them, and one of the ways was to put, you know, rotting fruit in cassette holders. Some of you are old enough to know what a cassette holder is. But anyway, you know, I don't like to attract bugs into my beehive. Oh, I don't like that at all. Thank you, Sally, for your donation. So I think an oil trap would be enough. They're going to find it. The bees will run them down in that oil trap. You'll be fine. It will help. But I've had to put more than 2 or 3 in there sometimes. Hey, Katie, thank you for all you do for us. Do the girls bring in pollen and nectar at the same time, or do some just gather pollen and others just nectar? That's a very good question, Katie. All of the above. Sometimes in a perfect scenario, bees will go to a plant, gather pollen. Well, they actually go and gather the nectar from the nectaries, and the plant also, actually, let me back up. It's all about fertilizing plants, okay? So when a bee shows up, it's actually getting the pollen grains on its legs and body. And when it goes to another plant, it's fertilizing plants. To reward the bees are able to take nectar from the nectaries as a reward. And so then they fly back. That's how it's supposed to work. Sometimes I've noticed on ragweed, they go just for pollen, not much nectar. Other plants don't have a lot of pollen or nectar, so it kind of comes and goes, okay? It all depends for sure. Yeah. Those are good questions. All right. How do you clean the screen plug on the feeder pail after the propolis closes it off, or the plug's just meant to be thrown away after a few uses? Thanks. Not sure what you mean by screen plugs. Now, if you're talking about my feeder board, we have holes for the jars with screen to protect. And in that case, I've demonstrated in videos before how you can take a blowtorch and quickly just hit it with a blowtorch. Don't melt the screen, but you can melt the propolis off that way. Thank you for your super sticker, Wendy. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys. David, assuming you keep notes on each hive you have, when did you notice you needed to start doing this, and how detailed are they? Do you reference old notes now? I do not. I have a little bit too many hives to keep really good notes on. It seems like I have a kind of a good memory of what's going on, but if I don't, it's really easy to pop in there and look again. However, my best note-taking method, and if you watch my videos, you'll see it, I keep notes on the top of the hive with a queen marking pen, and I'll make serious notes, nothing just, you know, loosey-goosey notes, but it's got to be like queenless, and I'll write QL, you know, July the 24th, 2025, queenless, needs a queen. I'll write serious notes up there, but I'm not going to write little here and there stuff. I used to. Thank you, James, for your donation tonight. Hey, Mike, during a dearth, should I be putting a pollen patty on or in a hive? Mike, here's the deal. I used to do that, and now it's real risky for me because it will attract small hive beetle into the pollen patty, and they will lay eggs in the pollen patty and raise their young. So now that's why I started mixing the protein powder substitute into the sugar water. And when they consume it, there's no attractant to those small hive beetles. The smell's not there at all. It works really good. But you do what you want to. You may live in an area where small hive beetle are not a big deal. Yeah, I get that. Hi, Lynn. David, could you please remind me how long for the new queen to hatch from it being capped over? Thank you. Yeah, queens have from the egg until they hatch, it is 16 days. It's capped over about day 8. So that means about 8 days as a pupae, and that's when it will work its way, chew its way out of its cell. 16 days. That's the quickest. Okay. Worker bees emerge on day 21, drones on about day 23. So the queen is the fastest to emerge. She doesn't have as much going on, does she? Biologically. Won't the bees know if they need a new queen? Absolutely, they will, certainly. Will they always successfully raise a new queen? 99% of the time. But that 1% drives all of us crazy. It's like, I'm queenless, and they didn't raise a queen. Well, sometimes a queen can go on a mating flight and get eaten by a dragonfly or a bird, or get caught in a storm, or not fly back to the right hive, you know? So nature is good, but nature is not perfect. Nobody's perfect. And so that's what happens sometimes. Yeah, they do know to raise a new queen, but it can fail. And then they don't have any eggs after that, and they can't raise a new queen at all. All right, let's have another giveaway now. I'm excited about this giveaway. And this giveaway is fun because it really is very timely giveaway. Look at this, a double sieve strainer, stainless steel strainer. You kind of pull these things out, fit it over your bucket, and there's different degrees of the micron measurement is different. I think this one looks like it's tighter, like it might be a 200. The bigger number is less, so that might be a 400 up here, something like that. So you could run your honey through one or both, or run it through the big one first, get the big stuff out, run it through the next one over a 5-gallon bucket. Now I've made a video on how to extract honey from hive to bottle. You need to watch that if you haven't. Type David Burns and David Burns Beekeeping from hive to bottle, something like that. But I show you completely how to do it. A lot of people do it wrong. They don't know that in your 5-gallon bucket where your honey goes into, you got to have a honey gate at the bottom, and you have to let that settle for about a week. And that way the bubbles float to the top. And so when you open the gate, we call them, at the bottom of your 5-gallon bucket, you're getting pure, no bubbles, nothing in your honey. That's a magical way to do it. Yeah. So anyway, we're going to give these away tonight to somebody that's getting ready to harvest some honey, and you're wondering how you're going to strain it. These aren't necessarily called filters. We strain honey. We don't filter it. Okay. So just leave hashtag strainer in the comments. Only need to leave it one time, hashtag strainer, to win these strainers tonight. And let me tell you this, you cannot have enough. You can have 10 of these and they're not enough, because here's what I do. I'll use these until they get all clogged up with wax and all. They don't strain good anymore. I'll pull this off and I'll get me another one that's brand new, cleaned up already, and I'll strain them through this one. So to have 3 or 4 of these really helps a lot, All right. So hashtag strainer to see who might win our strainer tonight. Okay, Robbie, let's give it a go and see who is going to win tonight. The strainers. It's so fun to extract honey. Some of you doing it for the first year. I'm telling you, it's nothing better than watching that gold liquid come out of there and just fill up your tubs or whatever, and then bottle it. Man, it makes you feel like a beekeeper. Hashtag strainer. All right, let's give it a go, Robbie. Ooh, look at the names going by. Yeah. Wow. A lot of you here tonight. Appreciate all of you being here at the live stream tonight. Okay. Pretty Prairie Apiary. That really rhymes. Flows right off the tongue. Congratulations. You won the strainer. Be sure and email us within 24 hours to beaksquadwinner@gmail.com. All right. Yep. Awesome. You're going to love those strainers. Very good. All right. We have time for more questions tonight. Sal, how you doing? I caught a swarm this past spring, and they've not yet got their frames in the second deep drawn out. Well, that's too bad. Should I continue feeding them to help them establish themselves to make it through the winter? Absolutely. I think it's a good idea. I want to know what's wrong. Is it the queen not laying good? What's holding them up? Is it lack of nectar in your area? Yeah, keep feeding them. Make sure it's a thin syrup, 1-to-1. It's going to help them draw that, metabolize that feed into wax. That's for sure. Fingers crossed on that one. And you're not the only one in that situation. A lot of beekeepers have been telling me they're trying to get frames drawn out. Yeah, absolutely. Well, hello, Mary Ellen. My super has an inner cover with top entrance. Oh, really? Am I taking a big chance for robbing? Very hot in New York. Thought it was helping with ventilation. Okay, is the vent up there, Mary? Is it big enough for bees to go in and out? And so you're talking about a 1/4 inch usually is what we worry about. So yeah, if it's big enough for bees to go in and out, that can be an issue. And a way to solve it is that you can take a little duct tape and cover it over, you know what I mean? Or Gorilla Tape if you're worried about it. I get it that you're wanting to ventilate it, or you can take screen. Take a little screen and cover that up, staple it on there, and that way you still benefit from the slot, but you're not going to let robber bees get up there. Yeah, that's a good point, because that can be an issue sometimes. Absolutely. Well, hello, Lee. How are you tonight? Thanks for being in the live stream. By the way, if you're watching for the first time, appreciate you guys. Also, be sure and click subscribe or give me a thumbs up on the live stream. It always helps a lot. Last year, half of my bees swarmed. Yep. And we had a huge population explosion of yellow jackets. Oh, that's tragic. The yellow jackets ended up devastating the remaining hive. What can be done to mitigate this problem? You know, yellow jackets are really tough. They sting. They eat meat. They're meat eaters. They go after everything. Oh my gosh. Some of you live in areas that have a lot of yellow jackets. I would suggest that you contact your extension office at your university. They have maybe yellow jacket traps that won't trap honeybees. You need to really reach out to somebody like that. My friend, Dr. John Zavishlock, you know, he's really knowledgeable about, he doesn't deal with just bees in Arkansas. He deals with all the insects, and he always has good ideas about stuff like that. But you have to be careful, because you can really, I've had some beekeepers say they had to move the bees out of that area. The yellow jackets were too intense. Hey, Danny, how are you doing? Started smoking up through my bottom screen board before cracking Hive open. Any reasons why not to do so? Well, the only reason would be, Danny, that we don't know if the smoke is really reaching all the way up to where you want the bees that are going to be seeing you first. Are they going to get the smoke? And so what we usually try to do is open the top cover, smoke a little bit, and it drives the bees down a little bit, and it calms the ones right there. So we're calming them as we go. So if you smoke from the bottom, you're running all the bees up to the very place where you're going to open that top cover. Those bees might be a little more angry, and, you know, they'll be rubbing their eyes, you know, like this, like, boy, who did this to my eyes? Oh, I'm so mad. So yeah, you might try it. Like, again, I don't think I know everything. That might be the way that we start doing it now that you've mentioned it, but I'd have to test it myself. But it has all the signs of not working good, I don't think. Oh, yeah. All right. What other questions do you guys have tonight? We've got a few more minutes to take a few more questions. I'm excited. This time of the year, there's a lot of questions about, treating for bees, harvesting honey. I know you guys are wrestling with a lot of things. Hey, Trish, good to see you. Thanks for your donation tonight. Used puppy pad to collect mess from pulling frozen drones from green frame. Hundreds of mites on the puppy pad and in cappings. I would have missed them without the puppy pad. That's good information. Yeah, that's good information. Using a green drone comb, by the way, do I have one? Nah, not one close to me, but I have a lot of videos made on the green drone comb, and they really do help so much in controlling the varroa destructor mite because they're drawn to the drones for sure. So yeah, I'm glad to see that working out well. Hey, Joel, first year beekeeper. Congratulations, Joel. Cool. So I don't have any super frames drawn out. Should I slap a super on, feed the bees till it's drawn out so they don't have to do it next year? Yes, Joel, give that a try. Now you had to be careful because they could draw it out and they could start putting the sugar water in there and it's not really honey from flowers. Okay. So you have to kind of watch it and police it to make sure that it doesn't turn out to be just a big honey frame filled with sugar water. So be careful about that. Yeah. And all of us want to feed our bees in the dirt. So you want to make sure you get your supers off that you're going to harvest before you feed during a dearth. Hello, Rob. Should I top super a medium super from a weak hive to a strong hive to finish drawing out and filling? Oh, I see. Put it on a strong hive. Yeah, any of those things work all the time. I used to really go after that. I micromanage which hive was good at what. Like a hive might be good at drawing out frames. I would move supers to that hive, let them draw it out. That's what that hive was known for, right? One hive was known for making a lot of brood. Sometimes I'd pull brood frames out of there and spread the wealth around to other hives. I really do enjoy, and I'm making a video soon, I think tomorrow, about manipulating frames and hive to balance equalizing hives. I think that's a big thing to do. Absolutely. Okay, got time for one or two more questions. Appreciate you guys being here. New beekeeper here. Okay. I caught my first swarm at the end of May. Brood box is doing great. I added extra wax to the medium and bees are not building. Had to install drawn frames. Okay. Help with new plastic frames. Yeah. Maybe it's the bees, maybe it's the frames. This is not a paid promotion, but I've found success using the Acorn plastic foundation with double coat, 2 coats of wax on it. I buy it off Amazon. We don't sell that. And I think it's cool. I promote that and I'm not getting any kickback, but it works good. I made a ton of videos how awesome it works. Try switching brands maybe, and that might do something good for you. Well, hello, Cliff. Bees won't cap over the sugar water, correct? Let's see. Bees won't cap over the sugar water, correct? Oh, I see. Like in a honey super. Oh, they will. If you give them honey super and they dry it down to 16 to 18%, if you give them sugar water, yeah, they're going to cap that over. They'll invertase. They'll add their, enzymes to it, turn it into honey best they can. And if they get it done, they'll cap her over. That's right. They will. That's why beekeepers feed 2 to 1 in the fall. Give them some honey stored in there. Good question, though. It's something you don't think about much if they really do that or not. All right, let's take one more question tonight. Mark, how are you doing? If I'm using a solid bottom board with a robber screen, am I hampering airflow too much? Possibly. Yeah, possibly. But the worst thing to do would be if there was absolutely no upper vent and you had it restricted at the bottom with your entrance reducer to the smallest setting. That's going to make it harder for the bees to push out the hot air. So that way you may want to open up a little bit more on the bottom board. And like I said, put a little coin in the top cover, under the top cover, kind of keep that where they can help ventilate all that moisture and heat out of the hive. That we're looking at about 92 degrees, 93 degrees on the brood area. If it gets too hot, it can actually damage the brood. And we're facing extreme heat. It's really tough, isn't it? All right, guys, we're wrapping it up tonight. Oh, I had such a good time tonight. You guys are the best. Wow. I thank you guys for being here. We had a great crowd tonight. Thanks for being here and being a part of the live stream. I'm here every Thursday night helping you guys out, okay? I'm dedicated to answer your questions. And here I am. So you have me at your disposal every Thursday night to answer your questions. I'll be at EAS next week. I will have a live stream from New Jersey next Thursday night, okay? So be sure and tune in next week. Love it, love it, love it. Watch all my videos, making videos constantly for you guys from within the hives. A lot of you are watching on Facebook. You may not know that I also have a YouTube channel where I actually show me in hives and showing you how to work bees and how to manipulate frames. Well, I got to say, you guys are the best. I love you from the bottom of my heart, and I love you for being so loyal. I want to thank Jessica, Sheri, and Robbie tonight for helping with the live stream. And a big shout out to my friend and videographer, Patrick, that does the filming in the bee yard. He'll be here in the morning, and we'll have fun making some videos in the heat. So thank you guys so much. I'll see you in the next video.